Hello everyone, I'm Duke James. This is Meiou and Taxes 3.0. I'm going to do a colonization campaign as Morocco, or Fez. We start the game as Fez. Morocco, Fez. I don't think there's actually a forming Morocco, so we would stay as Fez. Because I'm not sure where this campaign's going to go. I think most people that played this country would form Al-Andalus, or roughly the borders, but I think I'm going to avoid that. So I'm going to colonize, and then I'm not entirely sure where it's going to go, but I think I'm going to conquer North Africa up until the Suez, or maybe a little bit somewhere over here, and then come down here and conquer West Africa, go down to South Africa, try to keep the European powers out of India. Something like that, but I don't think I'm going to conquer Hispania, or at least that's not going to be my early goal, at least. If it happens towards the late game, I might do it if I run out of things to do. But yeah, not sure where this campaign's going to go, but probably mostly conquering Africa. But I'll talk more about Fez later. For now, though, I've upgraded the beta, or the alpha, from I think 3 to 8 or 9 version, so there's a lot of changes. And the most obvious right off the bat is the UI up here has been updated. So I think before there was a problem with specifically I think the powers not lining up, so they went ahead and grouped them into this nice rectangular square box. So the powers are all there, nicely lined up. Money, corruption, everything is the same, nothing's added, just grouped differently. So that is the most noticeable change when you look at this. And then if we look at Fez, which is our capital, you can see the tooltips have been updated. So I think the major thing from the tooltips is they broke off industry from infrastructure. Because infrastructure, I think, used to be like 6 pages. So infrastructure is now 4 pages. And industry is now its own 2 pages. Although there's 4 pages because there's 2 empty pages, which I imagine are either going to be used for something or removed. Because right now they serve no purpose. I think the next thing is to remove this infrastructure screen from the rest of the infrastructure. Because this feels different since this is province buildings versus... This is province buildings that you can build and you have to maintain versus these, which are resources and districts, which you make money from. They're kind of opposite, because you make money from these, you spend money on these. So I would think that they would be split off for easier access to this screen. And you can also see in the bottom of this screen they have total amount of demanded goods from all buildings. So they now tell you the amount of goods that a province demands to keep up the infrastructure buildings from deteriorating, which is nice to know. I don't think they made any changes to resources or districts, at least not that I can tell. They probably did some stuff behind the scenes. They absolutely did some stuff behind the scenes, but I can't comment on that from this screen because I'm not entirely sure. And this is the industry screen where it shows the province production. I think that's the same for the most part. They grouped population with religion. Religion is still not in the game. That's not religion. Yeah, well, we're Sunni. Okay, I was going over there for the to look at the Pope, but we don't worship the Pope. I guess nobody worships the Pope, but we don't worship. Yeah, anyway. Religion's not in it's not in the game. But they did group those two. And then speaking of population, they went ahead and they changed colors. They basically color-coded some stuff just to make it easier to see, which is definitely good for when you're just starting out, because you're not exactly sure what to look for. So color-coding things would make things easier to parse out relevant statistics and figures from this number, because really looking at this, there's a lot of numbers here, so color coding is definitely good. Then the other thing they did here is they split off, didn't split off, but they added knowledge and education modifiers, which I'm not entirely sure what those do. There's knowledge literacy on the same line, and then there's education underneath it. I assume education has to do with maybe them either working in education or maybe the rates that they're being educated. I think the rate that they would be educated makes the most sense, but I'm not entirely sure on that. Just don't quote me on that, because the residents would be getting 20% education then. I think that it's either the amount that they're getting educated or the amount of people that work in education. I'll figure that out as we go on. And then they grouped unrest concerns, treatment, and education with elites, military, and provincial administration. They went ahead and show now the education output and literacy in the province view, so you can see how much education your provinces produce, which is always good to know. I think the elites are the same. Military is the same, except they now show you the local demanded goods. So training and recruitment consumes goods, and they now show you that on the province level, so that's also good. Same with the infrastructure buildings, showing you the amount of goods demanded for buildings. This also shows you the amount of goods demanded for training and recruitment of soldiers in your provinces, which is always nice to know. It's always good to have more information. And then Provincial Administration. I think this looks the same, but here I believe they've broken out the actual peasantry, residents, nobles, burghers, the estates taxes on a provincial level, which I don't think they did before. And they also show you the tariffs from provinces now as well. Then they also break down realm expenses, so wages, manpower, and then if we were given a grain dole, that would also show up there as well. Those are the three that I know right now would show up there. In terrain, they went ahead and added the name of the items in the provinces. So olives, have the olives literally right there, typed out. And if we find another province with something, yeah, like sea salt, it's typed out sea salt, so that's good to know from first glance. And I think trade is the same. Pretty sure everything else is the same. So they also, let's see, what did they do next? I think they did some things behind the scenes with trade. I can't talk more on that, but there's a lot of behind the scenes things that I can't really talk about. Not because I'm not allowed to or anything, but just because it's a lot of nitty-gritty stuff. In terms of institutions, they went ahead and changed meritocracy from being something that reduced or increased your tech cost when you didn't have it to something that reduces your tech cost if you do have it. So now meritocracy, if you have it, if you've embraced it, gives tech cost negative 30%, yearly corruption negative 0.3, and admin efficiency plus 10%. For me personally, I feel like that is a lot. Negative 30% tech cost seems really powerful. And I think that just would make the Ottomans someone that you really have to kill before they get going if you're in this area. If you're anywhere near the Ottomans, you have to pretty much try to stop them if they have a 30% tech cost reduction from the start of the game, from day one. Because that just seems insanely powerful. I don't know if they were given any other malices to offset that, but plus the yearly corruption negative 0.3 and admin efficiency plus 10%. That seems like a huge buff to the Ottomans. I think everything else was stayed the same, but of course, like trade, they added some behind the scenes things just to make it work better, flow better. Help the spread of it. But from what I can see, everything else is the same in terms of the other institutions. I don't think they did much to trade groups, or idea groups. They made some changes to delegating tax codes, or delegating taxes, or taxes just in general, I should say. I think they made it more expensive for the most part, so to get the same benefit, it should cost more. The same benefit as before, it should cost more monarch power. And then the other thing is they make it now so that your property owned by the state, which we own nothing. I don't know if that's just, I think that hasn't updated yet, unless Fez literally owns nothing in the country. But this property now costs dip. So every year, if you're delegating taxes, you will see a property dip cost modifier there, or amounts. So in our Hungary campaign, with the amount of property we had, we'd probably pay a lot of dip to maintain that property. So it's just some balancing things, probably to make sure that your country doesn't own 100% of the property. And if they do, you're gonna have to sacrifice some dip, which to me, dip is actually not hugely important. So unless you're a naval power, it's not hugely important to have dip. You can fall behind that and be fine compared to admin and military power, for the most part. Infrastructure, they added the amount of units. The amount of units that you need to upgrade a building. So for example, if we go to infrastructure, if we wanted to upgrade our capital, it would be 16 units plus 1. Because our capital is at 0 right now, so you can't be out of 16. 16 out of 16 wouldn't upgrade it, so it'd have to be 17 out of 16, and then it would go up to level 1. So it now shows you that in the state construction screen, and then it also shows you... Let's actually go to that. Prove that by rank 1. Shows you the cost. We have nothing selected, so it's not giving us any cost. And then it also shows you labor demand per unit each year. For, I think amenities and capital would be resident, and then I think the other ones would be rural demand. So that's good to know. Pretty sure the census is the same. Let's actually check this out for a second. I think they changed the grouping. Yeah, they moved nobles to the residence page. I'm not sure why, because I think before it made more sense for nobles, burghers, and clergy to be on the same page, but that might just be because they don't want 3 on the same page, because that's a lot of information on one page, so that might be why. That's really the only change, and then I think that's the same thing for... They didn't do it in the wealth section, which also confuses me. That might have just been an oversight that I assume would probably get moved. Either that's moved back or moved back. Moved forward. But wealth is the same. Industry, I think, is the same from what I can see. And then I think they added a couple special map modes, but otherwise that's pretty much the same. And then I think the last thing is they went ahead and they added a lot of supports and leverages, not really to the burghers. I don't see anything, although they do have... I think they added restrict foreign trade, unless I just never paid attention to this before. I think they've added this in there, which gives negative 15 sector score for foreign countries. So with trade, what happens is sectors are assigned a score based on the price of goods that they're selling and the price of goods that they're willing to buy a good at. And then there's other factors like the relations with the country, how far away they are, the tariff cost that affects a sector score. So if you do this, it will reduce the sector score for foreign countries by 15%, which will mean that your country will trade with sectors outside of your country a lot less because they'll be 15% worse after doing this. So if you want to go mercantilist and restrict foreign trade, then you can go ahead and do that. It costs 20 burger loyalty, which seems like a lot to me. Also costs a stability increase and negative 10% progress towards stability, so I think that would be a lot. It's a lot of, it's a high cost. Probably wouldn't do that unless I was huge. My nation was huge. Clans, I don't think they did any supports. And I'm not sure, I didn't really have clans in my Hungary campaign, so I'm not sure which one of these are new. They've added a bunch of stuff with legitimacy, so this one might be new. Enforced leadership, -1 national unrest, 0.1 yearly legitimacy. Clergy, they added a support, which is opposing populist reform. So for Fez, it's national unrest +8, but you get 10 clergy loyalty and 15 relations between spiritualists and the state. So you can trade off national unrest for clergy loyalties. So that is in between donating to the state church and lavishly endowing the church. I was going to do an Aragon campaign, so I was looking at Aragon. That's +5 national unrest for Aragon, so I'm not sure if that's because the clergy is more powerful in Morocco, but it's more national unrest for Morocco. +5 national unrest for 10 clergy loyalty. Actually looks pretty good for most nations. Not us, though, because we have a lot of unrest. So, at least not in the early game, that's not good for us. And then I don't think they added any supports for the nobility. I think all of these are the same, but they did add leverages. You can banish agitators, gain 1 stability for -25 noble loyalty, which seems like a lot, and you can reaffirm fealty for 10 legitimacy and -10 noble loyalty, and some stability increase interval and a little bit of yearly legitimacy for that as well. So that would give you 15 legitimacy, cost 10 noble loyalty. Interestingly, you could disown an unpopular relative and lose 8 legitimacy and gain 7.5 noble loyalty. I think you would come out on ahead if you did this and the other one, because of that +5 you gain over 10 years. So that's something to think about. I think that is everything from what I can see, at least. If there's more changes, I'll probably just go over them as I go through my playthrough, because it'll be a lot more easier to see any more changes that have happened as I'm playing. So that's going to be it for this episode. In the next episode, I will actually talk about Fez and go from there. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.